All right, friends. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I am so glad to be back in the house. And I just want to do a mic check to make sure everybody can hear me. So if you're on Instagram and you can hear us, just drop a thumbs up. If there's an echo, let us know. We're just checking out what we're doing. To all my friends who are joining us from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, I am so excited to see y'all faces. I have been out of the office, but now I'm back. Welcome to my home. And this week for a shot of vitamin K live, there is an echo. Okay. Let me see if I can fix that. Okay. I can hear it, but all right. So if y'all are on Instagram live, y'all might want to jump over to Facebook. I hate to make y'all do that, but y'all might want to do that. Because I'm trying to figure out how to make the echo not a thing. Maybe. So now I don't hear you as an echo. So maybe turn me down on your Instagram because you can hear me and they can hear you in their earpiece, and that probably will work. Okay, that seems like that works because you can still hear me in your earpiece. There you go. All right, friends, jump on into the party. If this is the first time that you are seeing my face, where have you been? This is cuteness right here. I'm Kishshana Palmer, CEO of Kishshana & Co. We are a leadership learning company, and we help everyday leaders just like you live well and lead well, become better leaders, become better managers, do all of that with ease without flipping the table a la Real Housewives of New Jersey season 1, okay? Teresa Giudice made that flip legendary, but every day in somebody's office, somebody's ready to go off. And so I'm committed to making sure that we are able to have really great, healthy organizations, lead from a place of authenticity and care, get stuff done, okay, y'all, because I'm about this business, but also be the managers that people actually want to work for and alongside and not talk about you behind your back on Glassdoor. And so I get to talk to amazing humans. Like, I feel so blessed that I just know some of the dopest people literally in the land. And this week is no different. I have asked my good friend, Dr. Precious Boyle, to come on up. Come on into the room.
I'm coming in, Kish. I'm coming in.
Come on into the room. Okay. Yes.
Hey.
And I got to do it like I do. Dr. Precious Boyle. Okay. I got to call you by your name. You've earned it. Okay. Anybody who is going on to get a PhD has put in some time and effort and attention. And so you are joining me today because we met on the internet, right? Like, we have not got a chance to do a good old squeeze yet.
Yes. I was like, who is this fly chick on this screen? Oh my gosh. She is killing the game. I need to know her.
That's what I said. I said the same. And so we just were chatting it up in the comments. And then one day I think you might have slid in like, hey girl. And I was like, oh, me? Hey to you. So you and I talk a lot about like this leadership thing, and you are a certified emotional intelligence coach.
Yes.
And the reason that jumped out to me was because I said, wait a minute, they make certifications. Now, you know, we love a good certification, okay? If there's a certification to be had, hey, Bree, if there's a certification to be had, you know, Black women look at it and be like, how can I get?
Let me slide in that.
Because we are learned folk, okay?
Yes.
People try to sleep on us, but we are learned folk. But you are well steeped in emotional intelligence. And so I figured I would turn it over to you because emotional intelligence seems to be in low supply. I really thought coming out of sophomore year and going into junior year of the pandemic, that folk would have got some sense.
Nope.
But we're realizing that we don't. So talk to me. So why is emotional intelligence such an important skill? I can't even say, dare say characteristic, because some of us are born with it. Some of us have to really learn it.
All of that.
That you have to have regardless of where you sit in the leadership seat.
Yeah, because it's every day.
Every day.
A lot of people think about emotional intelligence as, okay, when the big thing happens, I need to be able to manage my emotions. No, when the little things happen, you need to be able to manage your emotions. When everything happens, you need to be able to manage your emotions. So a lot of people talk about emotional intelligence like it's this magical, mystical, behind the screen situation.
Appears.
No, It is literally how you manage yourself and other people in any interaction. Are you perceptive?
Hold on, wait a minute. Don't even go into the point 2A and 2B and 2C because somebody ain't catch it. How you manage yourself and
yes, and others. Yeah.
Some of us are still struggling with the self-management portion of the program.
It's hard. It's hard because so the very first foundational piece of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. That's the part that's hardest. It's easiest for us to see other people.
Yep.
We see other people, we see what they do, we see how they interact. We can do all the things for all the other people. But when it comes to seeing us, that's where the trouble is.
Yes. And real quick, y'all, if you're on Instagram watching us, yes, there is an echo. I have not quite figured out what is the cadence to get rid of the echo. I know we have to keep our earpieces in, so it's not too bad. Yeah. If it's tough for you, I hate to send you off to somewhere else, but we are live on Twitter. We are live on my Facebook page. You just put in Kishshana Palmer. We are live on YouTube. That's just YouTube.com/Kishshana Palmer. So if the echo is killing you, I apologize. And if somebody has a solution that can help me, that'd be great. Yeah. Okay, because the StreamYard has not got to the YouTube yet. But if you're hearing the echo and you want to be able to watch it, please jump on to, oh yes, we can correct quickly. Okay, good. Okay, the comments are starting to come in. So y'all on Instagram, my apologies for the echo. If you can join us on one of the other platforms, that'd be great. If you want to stay here, just turn your volume down just a little bit. The echo won't be as loud because I can hear it when I turn mine down. Mm-hmm. And we'll continue the conversation. So when are we supposed to learn self-management?
Well, we got to start with self-awareness. You got to know self first. We often jump to the management, which is the action, before we go into our own roots. The way I talk about it is, if you think about yourself as a beautiful flower, yes, a beautiful tree, a beautiful rose, whatever illustration you want to use,
I like that.
Everyone sees what's above the ground. They see how you look. They see how maybe you interact with them, how you sway in the wind. They see all of that, but they don't know what's in the roots. It's up to us to know what's in our roots. And when we know more about what's in our roots, then we know what walks into the office with us when we walk into the office. What walks into the building with us when we walk into the building.
Because everywhere you go, there you are.
There you are. There you are. And so knowing what you are bringing to any conversation, a lot of people right now, and a lot of people that I'm coaching right now are having this crisis with maybe a manager or maybe a colleague or maybe with someone who reports to them. But it's because neither of them are recognizing what they're bringing to the situation. It may not even be about them. They look like somebody that you had a bad interaction with years and years ago. And you're interacting with them now as if you're dealing with that person. And the person is looking at you like, wait, I didn't even say.
Like, what did you coming across like, what did I ever do to you? You like that time in 1992?
In 8th grade, in 3rd grade.
Yeah. Right? Like that's so true. And it's so interesting. Like you and I in terms of how we coach leaders, are really what I love about the work that you do. You're really getting behind the curtain of what's going on with folks. And a lot of times when leaders come to me, they want a coaching initially, they're trying to solve a problem. And I will solve a problem, which is why we had to come to what we come to today. Okay. We should have done Scandal because you and I will solve it. But we're doing How to Get Away with Murder because there's some lessons to be learned from Annalise on emotional intelligence. But when clients come to us initially, oftentimes I feel like they're coming to solve one thing.
Yes.
But during the process of really doing that self-work, really digging in, we find that oftentimes that was a red herring. And they actually need to be working on activating in and solving through and managing through something else or set up something else altogether.
Exactly. The problem is the fool's gold. Like, that's not really it. That's not really it. There's so much underneath that has to come into play when you're having those types of interaction. That's the fool's goal.
Yes.
If we just solve the problem, we're going to keep having to solve that same problem over and over again because there's something about how you may be showing up that keeps creating the problem that we then have to coach through solving.
Absolutely. And I love that. So that, and that fool's goal gets us caught up, right? Like
Oh,
that's the thing that gets us thinking that we want this thing over here when we really
yeah.
want this thing over here. And oftentimes we are rewarded with and temporarily satisfied by fool's goal.
It's pretty.
Hello, hello, promotion with name and no money.
Yes. And
Hello,
we're doing all the things. And
all the
then
things.
we're doing 3 jobs because we got promoted and it came with the title, but no increase in pay. We're doing 3 jobs and we're mad that we're overworked and can't spend time with our family and our life is out of whack. But we needed the title. The question is, why did we need the title? Why did we need that? Was it really a need? What's in our soul that's pushing us to do that?
Woo. And sometimes it's our ego.
It is so much ego.
And I was thinking
Yes.
about this quote, so I had to go into the bag now. So I love How to Get Away with Murder. So before we jump into the quote that I want to say, why do you love? Because you and I were like, yes, that's the one. Why do you love How to Get Away with Murder? Let's just break down the quick premise of the show and why it's such a good leadership lesson on emotional intelligence. Because we're going to dig
Yes.
into this particular show. And if y'all have not watched How to Get Away with Murder, I don't know where y'all have been and what rock you've been under.
Listen, it's a few things for me with
Tell
How to
me.
Get Away with Murder. One, I grew up wanting to be a lawyer. We're gonna
Same.
start there.
Yes.
I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wanted to be a lawyer because I was a fan of Claire Huxtable, and she looked real cute in her suits.
Come on.
And sis, she came in with the briefcase, and it
Come
was
on.
like, oh yes, that's what I want. I want to
Yes.
do that.
Yes.
So let's start with that. I was drawn to it for that. But on top of that, I think that this show has so much specifically for Black women
Ooh, yes.
because we go after the thing. We want to be the absolute best and will sacrifice so much to get there. And Annalise Keating sacrificed the most to get to the point where she's arguing cases in the federal courtrooms and she's the one. She is Annalise Keating. Everyone wants to be her. Everyone either hates her or loves her.
Yes.
It's a whole situation. She has left her home and changed her whole name, changed her whole persona. And how many of us do that?
How many of us have to step into a whole persona and have been in a whole persona so long that we actually don't even remember truly who we were and what
Yeah.
track we were on, which is how you can fall off the emotional intelligence truck, right? That's
Exactly.
how the apple fall right off the truck, right?
Yes. You drinking
Because
your own Kool-Aid.
exactly, for a long, long time, and being
Yeah.
rewarded for this new you that you made up. Now, that's different to me than stepping into a new season in your life and
Yes.
having to shed some of the behaviors,
Right.
some of the things that you've had to do, the practices you've had to do in order to be able to survive or thrive in that season. That's to me,
Right.
that's different. But when you have just, I remember when I went to undergrad, there were a whole lot of colleges in Boston where I went to school. So I got to meet, know, and be friends with folks from all over the place at different universities. And I remember I used to meet these guys. I'm a New Yorker and I'm a Queens girl. Okay. So I'm a city girl. You know, I'm not gonna hate on my friends from Mount Vernon because I know a lot of them watch this in the replay. They're gonna hate, they're gonna be like, listen, okay. But when people used to be like, oh, I'm from Mount Vernon, I used to be like, I guess. And so I remember there was somebody who was from, you know, someplace way up in the state and say they were from New York. And they came up with this like extra tough exterior, like they were from Brooklyn or something. Like, it just had a whole different vibe. And I was like, not from the suburban town that you are from.
You are not hard, ma'am, sir. Stop.
Ma'am, sir, thems. You are not hard at all. You are Twinkie soft.
Yeah.
And so, but this particular gentleman had taken on a whole new, like, complete ethos. He was a different person, a complete different persona. So much so that I don't know if he knew where the old him ended and the new him began. Okay. So we do that a lot of times. And when we step into the workforce and we step into our first management role, we understand, and particularly as Black women, we understand how to assimilate.
Yes.
We've been studying folk a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it like, your favorite British actors who you didn't know were British initially until they started speaking for an interview and you were like, no, what now?
What? Yes.
And American actors don't seem to be able to get British accents that well, but British folks get it in reverse.
It's the mask. We put on the mask.
It's the mask, right?
Yeah.
So how do you shed that mask? So let's talk about Annalise Keating. So how do you feel like, because season 1, mask on, she was definitely 100% like in her role, in what she had designed for herself.
Yes.
And over the course of a couple of seasons, we started to see that crack.
Mm-hmm.
So how does emotional intelligence, when it's a part of who you are and you don't have to learn it, how does it crack you?
So what's great is we're able to see from the beginning Annalise blossom and peel back layers like a full-on onion.
Yeah.
So we see her thriving and we think that's the Annalise Keating. But then as the seasons go on, like you said, like we start to see her take her wig off at night before she gets in the bed. And we're like, wait, ma'am, that's not your hair? Wait
a minute.
Take lashes off, turn into a whole different person once she steps into her comfort zone. She turns back into herself, the real her. We started to be introduced to her mom and what she left in Memphis. We started to learn her real name, Anna Mae Harkness, not Annalise Keating. No. So if nothing else, she knew who she was. She knew she was putting on a mask. It just took her some time over time to figure out how to bring the mask off completely and step into the real her all the time. And I love that one of the things that she talks about and I know we'll get here in in her closing argument, trying to save her own life, because what happens is when we step into a persona, when we wear the mask so much and we forget who we are, eventually to save our own lives, we're going to have to come back to who we really are.
That's
at
right.
Our core.
That's right. That's 100% right.
To save our own lives.
To save your own life.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, and I think what we're seeing right now in leadership, and for me, as I zone in on women's leadership, we see folks who are by hook or by crook, by illness, by survival, by bare misses. And it always feels like it's some like life-threatening situation and makes us pull up and come back to ourselves. And I feel like if we're really thinking about that first step in emotional intelligence, that self-awareness, that part of not getting to the precipice is being able to see like, oh, this is happening and I am stepping completely out of character.
Yes. You're stepping out of your values, because when your persona and your mask are on so tight that you lose sight of your own values and you start to do things that are misaligned with your values, with your core values, you got to come back to center. It doesn't feel right. And I think that's where we are now. We're starting to see leaders who are like, wait, this doesn't feel right. Like this coat that I've been wearing, this mask that I've been wearing, it no longer fits. It no longer feels right. We've had time to slow down. And I think that's the beauty of understanding self-awareness. When do you need to slow down so you can actually see you for you, to be able to present you, the real you, to the people who actually matter, which is everyone.
I love that.
Don't just pick and choose.
Don't just pick and choose. And what I want to say, what I want to add to that is that I've been seeing a lot, and I'm guilty of it too. Let me just put myself right on the hot seat. That we slow down out of protest. But I want to submit to the court that we slow down intentionally as a part of process and not protest.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to work with some coaches at a nonprofit I worked at a few years ago. And one of my colleagues, she was always talking about slowing down. And I was not at the slow down portion of the program at that particular moment in my life, because I had been working as a chief external affairs officer in a particular way for so long, which was, I don't know when they're going to fire me. So I got to hurry up and get it moving and get things in line and get people on board and get things rocking and close these gifts and get this brand done and get these marketing. I mean, like, my brain was in overdrive all the time. And so when my colleague introduced this concept of slowing down, I looked at her like she was a mad woman. Like she was absolutely, I was like, are you not paying attention? So when we think about EQ and we think about emotional intelligence, when we move from self-awareness, because I wasn't aware, let me tell you what, that was a block. My self-awareness had, and I was like, I consider myself to be highly emotional intelligent and tuned in, and yet I was tuned out. Okay, to what needed to be done. So how do we move to the next step?
Yeah. So after you become aware, one of the things that I talk about, especially in the online courses coming up next month, is the trigger chain. So there's a trigger chain. Yes, there's a trigger chain that happens. So when you are For example, someone says something or does something that triggers you.
Mm-hmm.
The first step is recognizing, okay, I've been triggered.
That's right.
Don't let it overtake you. Like, slow down enough to notice that you've been triggered. When someone says or does something, if it bothers you, it's because there's a value challenge somewhere. Maybe they said something that you don't agree with about you. Maybe they called you something or said something that is misaligned with how you think about yourself. And so you're triggered. There's a value attached to that. There's some sort of belief about you or about the other person that's attached. But then there's a choice. There's a choice. We intentionally have a choice to make about whether we fight, flight, or suppress.
Or suppress. Woo! And many of us have been doing what? Suppressing.
Suppressing.
That's, if I had to take a blind taste test, I would say 9 times out of 10, if you look at leaders right now, particularly leaders who share our melanin, share our lived experience, depending on where you are in the world, have a different faith, show up in the world and identify differently, right? Because different slices of the internet operate differently.
Yep.
Depression is what we've done. And when we get to the fight portion of the program, then it feels outsized to whatever the situation is, right? Because we have been holding on to stuff. But that's when, you know, one of my good girlfriends a couple of years back told me, Kishshana, you need to read this book called The Body Keeps the Score. And I was like, what?
Yes, indeed.
But the body literally does, right? Which is why leaders are stroking out, getting hospitalized, getting all types of dis-ease.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we are suppressing the very thing.
All the things. Yes.
And the thing about, I love the way you put that.
Yeah. The thing about a trigger is you feel it in your body first.
That's right.
So when someone says something, like, you feel like, oh, wait a minute, did she just,
you get a little jump.
You physically have a reaction. Yes. So you feel it first, and then your mind processes, okay, something is going on here. That little piece of your brain called the amygdala is where all emotions live. And that amygdala searches your soil, searches your memories for anything that feels like I felt this before.
Lightning fast too.
Yes. Sometimes, though, we don't give it enough time to fully process. We act on ill-prepared or we haven't fully processed that emotion before we send it on to the frontal lobe to do something with it. That's when we act out of order.
Look, that's when it be to the HOV lane of the frontal lobe, and it'd be like, hello, I'm here.
Yes, we're in the HOV with no passengers.
No passengers.
None. We just riding
dirty.
No. So we got to give it time to actually process what all is happening, what all is going into that. Because just like we talked about before, like sometimes you're pulling from experiences that you've had with other people.
That's right.
Sometimes you're pulling from the experience in the fight you had last night with your husband or with your significant other. And you're bringing that to the person who just didn't type an email correctly or misspelled something. And they like, wait.
Handle. You ready? Because I think we think that we can actually separate how we show up at home from how we show up at work. And many of us, depending on what generation we are, we're taught work is work and home is home. Don't you tell people that at work your business, right? And so you're sitting on things that are actually governing your business. And so I'll give you the story. So I remember I used to work at the DMV when I was in my 20s. It was my favorite job in the whole world. Anybody ask me, what is your favorite job in the whole world? Working for the New York State DMV. In New York City was the best job I ever had as a kid. It was the best. Okay, so
it sounds like a learning experience.
It was a study in holy moly, people are strange. I mean, like I was thoroughly amused for the 2 years that I worked there. There was never a day I didn't want to go to work. It was a hilarious hoot and a mess. And one of the things that used to crack me up was that I went to a PWI, I went to a white college. I used to call my professors by their first names. I used to call them lots of my teachers by their first names. Let me tell you what you're not doing at DMV, calling nobody Miss Precious. Oh no, Miss Boyle. Okay, and don't mess around and get it wrong. And Miss Boyle married, you better be Mrs. Like there was a level of like authority and power dynamics and sharpness disguised as respect. That was so that I didn't know that now. Then I was a kid. I was like, okay, we said call me by your last. I'm gonna do it. I'll call you by your last name.
Yeah,
right. Then now I'm seeing that was a part of that trigger and a part of that action for how people wanted to be treated, maybe because they didn't have power in other aspects of their life, and it was situational at work. etc. But I thought it was so interesting that something as simple as like how you call my name carried such was such levity, such weight in terms of how we engage. And so I think about that as I think about the titles that we carry, how we're in position.
Mm-hmm. That makes me think about too the unspoken rules that we live by.
Yes.
That is, as a leader in particular, we're holding people to expectations that we're not articulating.
That's right.
And so if we don't articulate them, that's another part of self-awareness.
Yeah.
So you know that you have a certain level, a certain expectation, you have a certain way you want things done. One of the things that I actually learned at the Management Center in DC, amazing place for just leadership training in general. But one of the things that they said was when you have a project or something from a manager, you want to ask them, what's the most important thing to you about this? Because you need to know what they're looking for. It allows them the space to actually articulate the expectations that maybe they aren't actually saying in the written description of the project. But what that taught me was we're all living by these unspoken rules.
That's right.
And if we don't actually say the thing to people, even the things that are uncomfortable, if we don't actually say the things, then we're not really living our values. We're really just putting up, we're leaning into the persona and the mask. We're doing what Annalise Keating says is creating the version of ourselves that the world will accept.
That's right.
Because we don't want to rock the boat.
We want to rock the boat. I listen, I was dealing with that the other day. You know, I wrote a post last week about how I went to a conference that is a beloved conference of mine, and that the organizers do a phenomenal job of putting together. So the conference is top notch from that perspective, and I could enjoy it, be a part of it, be a part of the planning team that does that work, and still have an experience and observe experiences where folks were not in right order, you know, or flexing power and position in ways that just were not becoming of who they were or who they claimed to be. And so that story that you're telling gets told for you one way or another. And I love that. And I was looking at a quote. I have my quotes up that Annalise said. She says, think carefully. Everything about this moment will not only determine your career, but your life. And what I thought was so like, oh yeah, about that statement is that for some of us, every move that we make, it doesn't feel like a Lego, because you know Legos you can click on and click on.
Right.
But with brick and mortar, once you lay that brick and you lay that mortar and it sets, you have to break it down, chip it away. And so for many of us, we are building brick and mortar careers, journeys, when we would like to be building Legos that can be taken apart, put it back, taken apart, move it here, ooh, that didn't fit, put it back. Many of us don't get that opportunity. We get these baked in roles and baked in shots back, up and back. Right? And so how do you coach folks who have made decisions in their life that may have led them on one path, and they really need to shape and grow in their emotional intelligence so they can take on something different?
Yeah, I think that's where I would talk about purpose. I would ask about purpose. And I say that because a lot of people feel like their job is their purpose.
Yes.
Like I'm living out my purpose through my job. And for some people, that is absolutely true. But even in that, there's an aspect of your job that's a part of your purpose. It's not the full job. And so understanding what that purpose is, and even if you decide, like a lot of people right now in the Great Resignation are deciding that they want to do something else, want to do that thing that's been burning in their heart. And I want you to do that. But I want you to figure out what you need to learn right here, because there's a reason that you're right here.
There's a reason that you're right here. And did you learn it?
You need.
Or were you at the sleep? So my thing is like, did you learn it? Or were you asleep at the wheel?
Exactly.
Because you
exactly. And that's where my conversation goes. Yeah. So it's around your purpose and really understanding, who am I? Why am I doing this? What is my ultimate purpose? If my ultimate purpose is to impact kids or impact a certain demographic, a certain group of people, is to shift and shake what's happening in the educational landscape, or whatever your thing is, where are you doing that?
Yeah.
Where are you actually doing that? There may be elements of your job where you're doing that. Is there a space for you to carve out that lane for yourself in your current organization?
Yes.
Is there a space for you to do that? But we get so scared. That fear keeps us like stuck in where we are. We don't take any leaps because where we are is good enough. We don't need to rock the boat. We've got a stable career. How dare we think about leaving that good job?
Listen, my mama, when I was like, I'm out of here, Mom, she was like, you leaving this good job with these good benefits to do what now? And I was
Yes.
like, to bet on myself full time, Mom, you know.
We said the same words. We said the same words. I'm gonna bet on myself.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm on myself. I was like, you know, I could always go back and get it and work with and for someone else. I feel like I have those kind of skills that would be needed and
Yeah.
and coveted. And first of all, Corrine said in the chat, why are the two of you reading me for filth right now? Bloop bloop. Listen, she a whole genius over there. Got multiple degrees, done worked up the ranks and did all type of stuff and got all type of accolades, and still we're like in purpose.
Yes.
And so when I think about you talk about purpose, and I love that you focused in on the self-awareness aspect of emotional intelligence, because I think a lot of times we kind of skip through that to get to all the other
all the pretty stuff,
right? All the pretty stuff. But when I think about what you said about your purpose, I think about it in relation to your values, because to me, lots of us have values that are aspirational. And if I've said this before, y'all, and you heard it before, just take it as the benediction. I'm coming around again. If it's the first time you've heard it, then let it be the first time you've heard this out of me and Dr. Precious's mouth. Okay. So many of us have values that to me are aspirational. Yep. I want to believe this thing. It would be nice if I believe this thing. It sounds good. It makes me feel good. So if your values make you have this like, warm hug kind of feeling, the probability is real high, y'all. That's aspirational, and that is not real. Here's how your values should make you feel, in my opinion. In the world, according to Kishshana, your values are like 10 toes down, heels dug in, bust you in the throat in the street.
Yep.
If you come for me about what I believe.
Yep.
It has a level of conviction. It has a level of faith, even for those who are non-believers. It has a level of lived experience and things you're willing to leave behind or put on the table in service of. So, for example, one of mine is integrity. So last week I went to a conference that I love the people and I love the folks, and I didn't have the best experience, which was a first for me. It probably had happened before. Let me just be real honest about that. That I had gotten slighted or not invited or ignored or whatever. But to your earlier point about we just be playing in the middle because we trying to be liked and we trying to make sure we don't rock the boat.
Yep.
I might have just took the lumps like, well, you know, that's the cost of doing business because I'm trying to get here.
That's the cost.
I'm trying to get here in my life. And so that's the cost I got to pay. Yeah. And I'm like, I paid my dues. I ain't paying no more costs. Okay. And so I'm like, listen, so having that experience without that bind, my value of integrity, which we've described as 10 toes down, right? Fight you in the street, that came out. I got to speak on it.
Yeah.
I had an aspirational value, you know, and I used to always say one of my aspirationals used to be health. Now it's not, it's an actual value. But so I was like, it would be good to be healthier.
It would be good
to live a healthier lifestyle. I would want to value going to the doctor, taking care of my stuff, doing this and that over other things. But over time, I looked at my actions and saw, oh, but Kishshana, you rescheduled that appointment yet again. Oh, Kishshana, it's been 3 weeks. You're supposed to schedule your mammogram. You ain't do it. Oh, Kishshana, you were supposed to get this blood work at the lab over here, but you didn't go. Like the number of things that were the actual 10 toes, like what was I actually doing was an indication that I actually did not have that 10 toes down experience. So to me, your purpose, your calling are your values in action.
Yes, indeed.
So you don't have to worry about what your purpose is. You got to get very clear on what your values are and your why around those things, because your purpose will shift in each season.
Yeah.
Which is why you values.
Yeah.
And that's why, back to your initial point, you got to be aware.
Yeah.
That's why I need to come to you.
Yeah. Well, what I love that you just said though was, and I had to write it down because this is what I take people back to. We do a values exercise to start the coaching contract period. We start with values because I need to know like we're gonna walk through them. Anyway, I think the part that people miss is what you just described. What do your values look and sound like? You have a very clear description of what your values look and sound like. And when they don't look and sound like that, something doesn't feel right. Like something's not right. I need to do something different because it doesn't feel right.
That's
I
right.
need to do something different. But a lot of people have these pretty values:
Ooh.
equity, empathy.
Ooh.
Those are pretty. Those are pretty. But
Ooh.
what does that actually look
What does
like?
it look like?
Yeah,
Like,
what does it sound like? What does it feel like for you and for the other person when
mm-hmm.
you know you're in the zone, when you're hitting it?
Mm-hmm.
Because the conviction that you just mentioned, that comes into play with values. It's not just it feels good because I know I'm hitting it. No, you're also convicted when you're not hitting it.
That's it. That's it.
Otherwise, it's just pretty.
That's
And a
pretty.
lot of people, empathy is a part of emotional intelligence. A lot of
Right.
people want to skip self awareness and get to empathy. If you're at empathy and you haven't dealt with self-awareness, you're in performance mode.
Come on.
It's pretty.
Look, persuasive performance.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Like Oscar worthy.
Wow.
It's
And
great.
yet, when the rubber meets the road, you can't sustain that for so long because where do you feel it first? In your body.
Exactly. Exactly. It's going to happen. And so I think a lot of people move past. So what I would say to people who want to go on this journey of self-awareness is, one, start with values.
That's it.
Start with your values, listing out. I start with 10. There's a list of probably 100. You can find any list of values on any Google search, and start with 10, and then break that down to 5,
That's right.
and then get to your top 3.
That's
because
it.
if you can get to your top 3, then you can pull, because another part of emotional intelligence is knowing which value to lean into when.
Mm-hmm.
You can't lean into all of them. I tell this story of we were on a road trip not long ago. The whole family, me and my husband and my daughter and my son, were going to a volleyball tournament. We had a flat tire. I am a leader. Leadership is at my core. It is what I do. I live and breathe it. It's in there. Well, we had a flat tire. My husband decided that we could make it to the next rest stop, and it would be fine if we just make it to the next rest stop. I wanted to get out and look at the tire myself. I wanted to ask him about his plan for how we get there and what happens in between. What are his contingencies? If
Mm-hmm.
something goes wrong on the way, I wanted to lean into all of my leadership skills,
Yes.
but not at the sacrifice of my relationship and my family value.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to know when to lean in and which one. That's why I ask people to come up with your top 3, not just your top 1, because if you're always leaning into that one, something is going to demand something different that you're going to need to pull on, that you're not going to have experience actually using and pulling on.
You can't put all-purpose seasoning on all the purposes. Okay. First of all, no one should have all-purpose seasoning in their closet. I'm looking at you with very sour mouth if you do not have at least a selection of specialty seasonings in your house. And salt and pepper does not count, friends.
Salt and pepper is not even seasoning. I don't even count that as
don't
use that.
It's not seasoning. Like, oh my gosh. But you're right. Like, you just can't have the one gear, right?
Yes.
We have a question in the chat, a statement question. So Corinne says, persuasive performance, exclamation point. I have a hard time dealing with folks who put on persuasive performances. Meanwhile, I'm operating from values and action. It's becoming quite challenging. So how do we advise her on how to navigate when you are a person who is typically 10 toes down in a ballerina point world?
Yes. And it depends on who you're interacting with, right? Mm-hmm. So like, you've got to use wisdom too. But I think that a part of what we do in challenging situations where we are all in and we're leaning into our values and we're pushing and challenging, we've got to identify what is the thing that's really pushing us right now.
That's right.
Like it can't be all the things. We can't approach people with all the things. What is the one thing that's most salient to that value that's really pushing us or that's really challenging, and when we don't see it? That's the conversation to have. It's a values conversation. It's not an action conversation yet. It's a values conversation. Mm-hmm. That's where it starts. You can get to how the value shows up for the other person, because they may be, literally 2 people can have the same value and illustrate it differently and it be in conflict. And so it's important for people to understand that your value is yours and everyone else doesn't show it the same way.
Right. That's right.
You've got to be clear on what it looks like for you. And that's the conversation to have. This is my value. This is what it typically looks like for me. This is what happened that causes me to question whether we are aligned in our values and how we demonstrate it. That's a conversation. It's not about you hurt my feelings when you say XYZ, because those are your feelings. No one else is responsible for your feelings. You are responsible for your feelings.
So there was a quote in the show as we're wrapping up that came to my mind as you said that. And I remember Emily saying, I am who I am. If you don't like it, I don't care. Okay, so the reason I brought this up is there's lots of folks who are going to watch some version of this and say, Dr. Precious, Kishshana, I just am who I am. Like, people just going to have to accept me, that I'm being authentic. You know, this is just me. I'm keeping it real. What do we say to these lovely souls in context of emotional intelligence and self-awareness and digging into value? What do we say to folks who are like, I just am who I am?
How's that working? How's that working out? How are your relationships? How are you prospering internally first? How's that working out? If it's all good, okay, be who you are. Every single person should want to be better in some aspect of your life. In some area, everything's not beautiful.
That's right.
And that brings me to, we often talk about self-care. We often talk about taking that time for self and using our self-care. But I want us to pair soul care with self-care.
That's right.
Because soul care, when you take yourself into that private space and you're learning more about you and how to operate better in your current situation, that's different. That's soul care. Self-care removes you from, is your cow gonna take me away? Take me out of this situation temporarily.
And that's why most of us do our self-care. We go to someplace else.
Exactly. Right. Whereas I want us to start pairing that with soul care, because soul care is, what is it about me in this current situation that I need to get better at? Let me learn about that. Let me read, let me study, let me spend some time with me to figure out where in my root is that showing up, so that I can be a better me in my current life, in my current situation. I don't want to come out of it. I want to be better in it. So a lot of people need self-care and soul care. The other thing I was going to say is that we don't have the capacity to manage someone else's image of us and our own.
Oh, first of all, hold on, friends. I need to, damn it, you didn't know something you were going to say that, because I could have had some music. Y'all hear that? Hold on. We don't have the capacity.
No, not to manage someone else's image of us and our own. But in order for us to get there,
tell everybody nothing else. No, cut it out. Because some of us are still living under the thumb of our mamas, whether they're here or not. Yesterday was Mother's Day. Some of us are still living under the deferred dreams of our immediate ancestors living around. Okay? Forget everybody else. We don't even know what our own things are because the thumb. Okay, continue. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I just had to get in there so folks understand the weight of what you just said. Okay.
Yes, that's the key. You've got to know self well enough, and that's why it has to start with self-awareness. We could have come on here and talked about relationship management, social awareness, all the things. But if you don't have self-awareness, it is the foundation of emotional intelligence.
That's right.
You can't show up for other people until you show up for you. Woo. So you got to dig in your own soil and figure out, like, what is it that I believe about me? What is it that I want? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And be clear about that before you go in trying to interact with other people and manage their expectations of you. Because if their expectations don't match what you believe about you, you're going to have conflict.
You're going to have it. That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Listen, you know, you and I could talk. We're going to have to come back and talk about something like this. Forever. I was like, and then next week. Because folks just need to understand and just get in it and take these moments, these shots of vitamin K. When I bring on my other doctors, okay, my experts, to give you that additional shot. So I was in Vegas last week, and they had at every opportunity, there was a chance for you to get a B12 shot, to get a vitamin C shot, to get a whole vitamin infusion. And the doctor was like, the nurse was like, it'll take you an hour here, it'll take 15 minutes there. And I was like, well, how long does it last? And she was like, well, you went from a week to a couple of weeks in your system, and then you got to do it again. And I said, oh, okay. And I thought about the fact that sometimes we need to just pull off on the rest stop, get a little revive-tion, as my daughter used to say when she was little, and then pull on back into the leadership highway. So this was today's folks for opportunity for folks to pull on off. But you have opportunities for folks to pull off for a little while and really begin and do that self-work. Because by the time they get to me, they're like, Kishshana, now I'm ready for the strat plan.
Yes.
To a plan. I'm a whole team. I gotta reorganize. I have to find. They ready to get in that part of the gym. So you have them in the first part of the gym. So how
Yes.
can folks engage with you in this work?
Love that and appreciate that because, to your point, people try to jump to strategy before they deal with self. And we've got to deal with self before we get to strategy. We
Hello.
are a part of the strategy. Dealing with self is a part of the strategy.
That's right.
So yes, Dr. Precious at Silent Rock ED, like that is, you can get me there. You can follow me on Instagram. You'll see all of that information there. But we have a course coming out in June called Me University. It's an online course where you can do this self work yourself in a step by step guided way. Because a lot of people are like, how do I do self work? How do I even start this journey? What does that look like? Well, we have it already laid out for you in a course, in an online course that's about a 4-week course where you can go on and at your own pace, spend as much time as you want in there. So that's opening up in June. There's a VIP version where you and I can meet on Facebook Live. There's a small group. There are lots of other opportunities to get engaged there. But if you email me or go to silentrocked.com, we can set up some time just to chat to get you started. Because if you are not a student of you, you're studying all the wrong stuff.
Come on, Me University. Listen, this is why I had to have my boo on, because I said folks think that they could just do the one shot Johnny and get it going. No, y'all. Mm-hmm. I need folks to commit to a solid year of work. I'm gonna work on me. I'm gonna work on me as it relates to my family. That's where I come in. I'm working on me as it relates to my team. Also, I'm gonna work on me again. You might they come back to you for a touch up again. Yes. You need to come on and run that through the wash one more time.
Let's do it.
And so I'm so glad to have you as a partner in this work in leadership, because folks think that you can just go on and get a couple coaching sessions and be to the world, and that is not the way any of this works. Mm-mm. And so I am just so grateful to have you as a part of the team, as a part of a friend, a partner. Y'all, don't let me and Dr. Precious start to go creating nothing. If she's gonna do Me University, I'm gonna leave her alone, okay? Because I have to do KISHSHANAVERSE, all types of stuff. But don't let 2023 come around and we like, we done popped out. Y'all ain't ready, because it'd be sold out of your city before it even go on sale. I just have to say that.
Let's put it out there.
Dr. Precious, thank you so much for your time today and for hanging out with me and for just being such a joy and a gift and imparting your knowledge for the KISHSHANAVERSE and for folks who are coming in to hear about a shot of vitamin K.
It's my pleasure. It has been a complete pleasure. And Sarah, let's do it again.
Hey,
let's do it again soon.
Okay, listen. I didn't want to have to drop it to y'all. This is my good Sarah right here. Okay, we just smell each other like the fragrance. And we know who we are. So, I know that. We like to just be coy with it. Y'all know we go together. Okay. Okay, that's so good. Thank you so much for being there. Just hang out backstage and I'll come to you in a second and you can jump off Instagram, but just hang out backstage here. All right, y'all. This is another shot of vitamin K. I just have the privilege of having the best people in my life. And this week got to talk about one of my favorite shows and also got to talk about one of my favorite topics. And I didn't have to teach a darn thing. I just get to be a student and listen to the amazing humans who I have in my life. And this week it was Dr. Precious Boyle, who is from Silent Rock ED, is a certified EI coach, emotional intelligence. The thing that many of us need, that if you have two people who are going for the same job, y'all, same exact skills, and one person has higher emotional intelligence than the other, and child, you can measure it, but we don't measure it. We can just feel it in our spirits, in an energy thing. That person is going to get the job, unless there's some serious bias going on, in which case, and let me throw that out the window, y'all. But all things being equal, that is who is going to get the job. And so if you loved what you heard today and you want more of it, make sure you do a couple of things. Number one, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is YouTube.com/Kishshana Palmer. I'm going to be back here every week. I took a break in April because I have bronchitis every spring, and it was out of control, y'all. I was not well, okay? And I knew I was going to be speaking about 7 times at conferences in the month of May, and so I needed to make sure I got myself together, but I'm back. We'll be back every week. If you are ready to learn with me and you want more, but you want to do it yourself, you want to find your own adventure, go to learn.kishshanaco.com, and there you can find all of my courses, classes, downloads, tidbits to just dig into your leadership journey. This should be a part of the work you do for yourself, so just come on and dig in. And if you decide that you want to do more work and you're like, Kishshana, I have done the self-work, I am at the implementation portion of the program. I want to work on my next venture. I want to dig in and grow my team. I'm at this new job and I need these people to not know that I don't know all the things. So I'm trying to figure this out and I need a partner to do that with. Make sure you book a VIP day with me. And you can do that if you're on Instagram, right in my links. You can just click on a VIP day. And if you are watching this, go to KISHSHCO, KISHCO.info/VIP strategy. I will be back here next week with another shot of vitamin K. If there is someone who you think should be on this show, or you're like, Kishshana, I got something good and delicious to say about management, leadership, and life, and a good TV show or movie for us to talk about, please make sure you PM me and let me know, and I'll make sure to get you in the queue. And for everyone else, thank you for hanging out with us for this entire time. You, as always, are a great audience, and I will talk to y'all real soon.